My name is Lydia Contreras. I'm 29 years old, and I'm a licensed master plumber who owns half of a small but steady plumbing business in Pennsylvania. It's not glamorous, but it's honest, skilled work, and it's the life I built with my own hands. While most people my age were drowning in dorm room debt and philosophy electives, I was crawling through basements, learning how cast iron breathes, how copper fights back, and how water always tells the truth if you know how to listen. People hear female plumber and assume it's some quirky novelty, but the truth is, I became damn good at what I do. Good enough to buy my own house at 26. Good enough to have contractors bookmark my number. Good enough to run a business where customers wait specifically for me. That should have been something I felt proud of every single day. But things changed when I met him, Ethan Ross. Ethan came into my life 4 years ago at a friend's wedding. He was charming, tall, clean-cut, with that polished corporate smile people practice in bathroom mirrors. I was the bridesmaid with a wrench tattoo on her arm, wiping grease off my wrist during cocktail hour. He said it made me look adorably hardcore. I thought he meant it. I thought he liked that I was different. For a while, he did. We had that sort of early phase romance that pulls you in close. He'd come over after work, loosen his tie, sit at my counter, and tell me about office politics while I cooked dinner. I'd share stories about the attic that smelled like dead raccoons, or the elderly couple who fought over how many flushes a toilet should have. He'd laugh, and I'd melt a little. It felt normal and safe, things I wasn't used to. His parents liked me too, at first. His dad, Michael, admired that I ran a business. His mom, Donna, was skeptical, but when I fixed her leaking sink and refused payment, she warmed up. I thought maybe I had finally found a man and family who respected effort over aesthetics. I was wrong. The shift happened slowly, like a pipe corroding behind a wall. One day you think everything is fine, and the next day the ceiling collapses. Ethan's company began downsizing. He made it through the first round, then the second, but by the third, he came home pale and quiet, holding an envelope he didn't open until he was sitting on my couch. I held him that night, kissed the top of his head, and told him we'd figure it out. He said I was his rock. I didn't know rocks eventually get stepped on. He promised he'd find another job soon. He had an MBA, after all, and experience. But the weeks became months, and the months became a full year of rejection emails, half-hearted applications, and long mornings where he slept until 11 a.m. because the job market is discouraging. He collected unemployment, and I collected the entire weight of our life. I paid the mortgage, the groceries, his phone, the utilities, even his damn car lease, because he insisted he needed a professional vehicle in case he got an interview. I told myself love means supporting each other through hard times, but I didn't realize support can turn into self-sacrifice before you even notice the blood dripping. The comments started soft. Your boots smell like sewage. Can you leave them in the garage? Maybe we should get you a different work truck, one less loud. Do your work clothes have to go in the same laundry basket? And then came the bigger ones, dressed as jokes. You're too pretty to be crawling under houses. Don't show up to my parents' dinner smelling like a job site. I bet Vanessa would laugh her head off if she knew my girlfriend fixes toilets. Vanessa, his ex, the clean, corporate, immaculate ex he once swore was obsessed with image. I finally understood he only said that because she had standards and I had a tool belt. Still, I swallowed it. Still, I worked. Still, I paid everything. When his student loans became a monthly panic attack, I told him, "Your debt is our debt. I'll help you." He cried like I'd saved his life. I paid off $45,000 over 2 years. He posted, "Finally debt-free, dreams come true," online. I wasn't mentioned. I wasn't even in the photo, just him, smiling with a latte. But I told myself love doesn't require public credit. I told myself he was just struggling. I told myself I had time to be appreciated. One day, after a particularly brutal morning involving a flooded apartment, tree roots, and a smell I cannot describe without losing you as a listener, I came home completely soaked in sweat and grime. My shirt clung to me, my boots squelched, my hair was plastered to my forehead. I wanted nothing more than a shower. Ethan was on a video call with his old coworkers, the very types who comment on LinkedIn posts like they're auditioning for an MBA commercial. I saw Vanessa's name in the chat list. He muted himself, or thought he did, and leaned back in his chair. I passed behind him, exhausted, barely able to lift my arms. My boots thumped across the floor, loud enough to announce I was home. And that's when I heard it. I swear, man, I can't wait until I can afford my own place again. Dating a plumber is honestly killing me. Every time she comes home looking like that, I lose respect for myself. I didn't breathe, I didn't move, I didn't blink. It felt like a pipe inside my chest burst clean open, flooding everything. He didn't notice me. He didn't flinch. He didn't even lower his voice. His friends chuckled. Someone said, "Dude, you need a woman who fits your brand. That's not it." My hand shook, not from the day, but from the truth settling into my bones. The man whose life I'd been financially carrying for more than a year, the man whose debt I cleared, the man who lived in the house I paid for, the man I loved, was ashamed of me, ashamed of my job, ashamed of my sweat, ashamed of my effort, ashamed of the hands that kept the lights on above his head. I stood there in the hallway, covered in the filth of an honest day's work, and stared at the man who thought he was too good for me. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel tired. I felt awake. I stayed standing in that hallway for a few seconds that felt like hours, watching the back of Ethan's head as he kept complaining about me to people who had never even met me. My heartbeat wasn't fast, just heavy, like something inside me had finally stopped pretending. I walked into the living room slowly, boots leaving faint smudges on the hardwood. Ethan finally noticed me in his peripheral vision. His expression twitched, then froze. He scrambled to mute his call, this time for real, and turned in his chair. "Lydia, hey, you're home early." I stared at him. "What did you just say?" His face drained of color. What do you mean?" "You said dating a plumber is killing you," I replied. "You said you lose respect for yourself when you see me come home from work." Silence. He blinked hard, like he was trying to reset the scene. "Lydia, you misheard. That's not what I meant." "I was standing 6 feet away, Ethan. I didn't mishear." He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "It was just a joke. No one was laughing except the men who agreed with you." He pushed out a breath and stood up, running a hand through his hair in that dramatic way he always did when he wanted to stall. "Look, you walked in covered in filth. Of course I'm flustered. I'm on a call with people from my old job. I don't want them to think my life's falling apart." "I'm the reason your life isn't falling apart," I said quietly. That hit him. His jaw clenched. He sighed, walked toward the kitchen, and grabbed a glass of water like he needed a prop to hold. "Okay," he said finally. "Fine, maybe. Maybe I said it, but you're taking it the wrong way." "Try me." He leaned against this counter, arms folded. It's embarrassing sometimes, Lydia. You come home looking like you wrestled a sewer. And my friends, we come from different worlds, you know? They don't get it." "And you don't defend me?" "What am I supposed to say?" he snapped. "My girlfriend crawls under houses for a living. They already think I downgraded after Vanessa." There it was, the ghost he'd never let die. "Downgraded?" I whispered. He hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. He didn't think he downgraded. He believed it. "Vanessa has a real career," he said softly, like that made the knife gentler. "She looked the part. She fit the image." "That's what this is about," I said. "Image." He set the glass down too hard on the counter. "I've been unemployed for over a year. My life feels pathetic. And then I look at you coming home covered in mud and grease and... God, Lydia, I just feel worse. I feel like I'm failing." "I supported you," I reminded him, emotionally, financially. I never once threw it in your face. "I didn't ask you to pay my loans," he snapped. "You cried on my shoulder when I offered." He flinched. "And when you got debt-free," I said, "you bragged online like you did it all yourself." "That's not fair." "What's unfair is pretending the person who saved you is the one who ruined your image." He walked past me, pacing the living room like a caged animal. "I'm trying, okay? It's just hard seeing you covered in that stuff, and then knowing you make more money than I do." "You haven't worked in 14 months, I reminded him. "That's not the point." "It absolutely is." His pacing stopped. He turned to me, face twisted. "You're almost 30, Lydia. Don't you want something more? Something better than crawling through other people's filth?" "I own a business. It's not a career." I laughed, a sound that didn't feel like mine. "I make more than you ever did. I bought this house. I keep us afloat. And you're ashamed of me?" He looked at me with something sharp in his eyes. "I'm ashamed of how you look when you come home, and how it makes me look." Everything inside me went silent. "And let's be real," he added, voice low. "You're not exactly feminine when you're covered in dirt every day. My friends think I'm dating a construction worker." Vanessa said, "Don't finish that sentence." He swallowed. I stared at him for a long time before I said it. "You need to leave." His head jerked. "What?" "You heard me. Get your things. You're leaving tonight." You're being dramatic. I'm being done. He laughed nervously, like I was joking. Lydia, come on, this is our home. This is my home, I corrected. My mortgage, my bills, my life. You can't kick me out. You've lived here for free for 14 months. You don't contribute, you don't respect me, and now you're telling people I'm killing you? No, you don't get to stay. He blinked hard, anger rising. Where am I supposed to go? Your parents, your friends, anyone who thinks you deserve better than a plumber. That's not fair, he said again, voice cracking with a mixture of anger and panic. What's not fair, I replied quietly, is loving someone who feels embarrassment instead of gratitude. He moved toward me like he might reach for my hand, but I stepped back. Lydia, please, I didn't mean it like that. I'm stressed. I feel like nothing. You feel entitled, I cut in. Not insecure, entitled. And I'm done pretending you're someone you aren't. His mouth opened, then closed. He grabbed his keys and threw them on the counter. Fine, he said. You want me gone? I'll go. But don't come running back when you realize no man wants to deal with this. With what? I asked. He gestured at me. My boots, my clothes, the drying grime on my arms. All of that. No one wants a woman who smells like drain pipes. My heart didn't break, it hardened. I'd rather smell like work, I said, than like a man who thinks he's too good for it. His chest rose and fell. He stared at me long enough for me to see the truth in his eyes. He never valued me. He valued what I did for him. He grabbed a backpack, stuffed in 2 shirts, his laptop, and left without looking back. The door slammed. The house fell completely silent. For a moment, I stood in the middle of the living room, breathing through the sting in my chest, the grime drying on my skin, the echo of his words dripping through the air. Then something remarkable happened. I didn't cry, not a single tear. I just exhaled and felt lighter than I had in months. Ethan was gone, but his presence lingered in the house like humidity, heavy, stale, unwelcome. His keys on the counter, his empty mug in the sink, the faint scent of his cologne in the hallway. It all felt like clutter from a life I was no longer living. I showered slowly that night, letting the hot water rinse away the filth from the apartment back up, but also the heaviness of the past year. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard his voice again. Dating a plumber is honestly killing me. I lose respect for myself. You're not feminine. It's not a real career. Vanessa would never... My hands clenched tighter each time, but I still didn't cry. I wasn't sad. I was furious. Not just at him, at myself, for carrying a man who had never once tried to stand on his own. By morning, my phone was buzzing nonstop. 3 missed calls from his mother, 3 from Ethan, 1 text from his dad. I'm sorry about everything. Stay strong. And a single message from an unknown number. You don't know me, but I think you should hear something about Ethan. I ignored all of them at first. I threw myself into work. Calls, contracts, clients, clogged toilets, leaky faucets. Honest problems with honest solutions. Real people who respected real effort. Around lunch, my business partner Rick looked at me and said, "You okay? You're working like you're outrunning a demon." I shrugged. Maybe I am. Rick didn't push. He never does. That's why we work well together. The social media explosion. That afternoon, I finally checked my phone again. Ethan hadn't just called, he had posted. A long, dramatic paragraph on Facebook about escaping a toxic relationship with a woman who used money to control him and made him feel worthless. He ended it with, "Sometimes leaving is the only way to save yourself." The comments were full of people saying, "Stay strong, King. You deserve better. She sounds controlling. No woman should make you feel small." I stared at the screen with a calmness that felt unnatural. Control him? I paid his bills. I paid his loans. I kept a roof over his head. He wasn't escaping abuse. He was escaping accountability. Then my phone buzzed again. That unknown number. Vanessa Price. His ex. I'm not trying to stir drama. I saw Ethan's post. I felt like you should know he did the same thing to me. My breath caught. She continued. He pressured me to look a certain way, act a certain way, be on brand for him. He loved the idea of dating a woman with a fancy job, but he never respected the work it took. He told his friends I was too intense about my career. He mocked me behind my back. He cared about status, not people. Every word clicked into place like puzzle pieces I didn't know were missing. She ended with, "You didn't break him. You broke free from him." I thanked her, genuinely, for the truth, for the context, for the validation I hadn't known I needed. The narrative turns. By evening, Ethan's story began unraveling. Mutual friends messaged me privately. "Is it true you supported him? Wait, he didn't work for over a year?" He said you made him feel inferior, but you paid off his loans? People who had commented support on his post quietly deleted their comments. One of his coworkers DM'd me. He literally bragged that you cleared his debt. Why is he acting like a victim now? Someone else commented publicly, maybe get a job before blaming your girlfriend for your problems. Ethan deleted that post within minutes, but not before the screenshot spread through his friend circle. The carefully constructed narrative collapsed. The aftermath. Over the next week, Ethan tried reaching out again. Can we talk? I didn't mean what I said. I was stressed. You know I love you. You're blowing this out of proportion. You're ruining our future. Please don't do this. You owe me a conversation. I didn't owe him anything, but we did end up speaking once, because his mother, Donna, drove to my house unannounced and started banging on the door like she had a warrant. I opened it reluctantly. She barged in. What did you do to Ethan? She demanded. He's devastated. He said you kicked him out while he's at his lowest. What kind of woman does that? I stared at her calmly, the kind who refuses to be disrespected. He said you threatened him, that you used money to control him. My mortgage, my utilities, my groceries, my car, my house. I didn't control him. I carried him. He's been depressed, she said, struggling. And I supported him for 14 months, I said. But depression doesn't give him the right to insult my work, my body, or my existence. She opened her mouth but stopped when Ethan walked in behind her, eyes red like he'd rehearsed the perfect tragic expression. Lydia, he whispered, please, I didn't mean any of it. I felt small. I held his gaze. Feeling small doesn't give you permission to make someone else feel smaller. His lip trembled. I miss you. You miss stability, and you miss convenience. He swallowed hard. You don't miss me, I continued. You miss what I did for you. That's not true. Ethan, I said softly, you don't love me. You love the idea that I'll hold everything together while you fall apart. His mother gasped. He looked shattered. His father, who'd followed quietly, looked relieved that someone had finally said the truth out loud. Ethan took a step forward, voice shaking. I can change. I shook my head slowly. I'm not someone you tolerate, I said. I'm someone you respect. Those words hung in the air like a verdict. And for the first time, Ethan didn't argue. He just cried silently, shoulders shaking, knowing the door had finally closed. His mother tried to speak, but his father put a hand on her arm and shook his head. Let's go, he said. She's right. They left. The house was silent again. But this time, the silence felt clean. Light, like something toxic had finally been drained from the pipes. I stepped outside, breathing in fresh air that didn't hurt anymore. My phone buzzed. Rick again. A new contract landed, a big commercial client. Congrats, he texted. We're growing. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled without forcing it. I wasn't embarrassed. I wasn't ashamed. I wasn't small. I was free.